Hey guys, today I'm going to show you how to change your gear oil on your C60 transmission, which is in your Lotus Elise, Exige, Celica GTS, and other Toyota products that have a C60 transmission. What you need is 3 quarts of gear oil. My personal preference is Redline MT90. I've used it in the past and it's been great. I know some people use a cocktail of 1 quart of Synchro Mesh and 2 quarts of MT90, but I haven't used that personally, so I can't give my opinion on that. I've used MT90 and it's worked great for me. So the next thing that you need is a transfer pump, which is right here, and you will need a 17 mil socket for the transmission fill, 24 millimeter socket for the transmission drain plug, 13 millimeter socket for the under tray, and an 8 millimeter for the under tray as well. One of these would be extremely helpful, a 90-degree drill, which you can zip up the under tray off really quick. So definitely get one of those, or you're going to be under there for quite a bit trying to take the under tray off. Again, a ratchet, and then another ratchet, and then a torque wrench, and an optional headlight, and of course a drain container. So first and foremost, jack up the car. Use your owner's manual to use the proper jack points. I did it on the frame and stuff right there. So I'm assuming that you know how to jack up the car. If you don't, check out the other video or read your owner's manual. So be careful, always jack up the car before you go under it. So let's get started on the under tray. One important item that I actually almost forgot was safety glasses. So you definitely need to wear safety glasses for this. You don't want any of the fluid to get in your eye. You don't want any of the debris to fall into your eye as you're taking off the panel. So definitely put some safety glasses on and protect your eyes. So there's 3 8 millimeter bolts up there, 1, 2, 3, and the same thing on the other side, 1, 2, 3. These 2 are the 13 mils, one right there and one right there. And of course there's 6 of those 8 mils right here. So go ahead and take those off with your 90-degree drill. And look how simple it is with this. So you just bam. Now if you don't have a drill, you are going to be under here for a really long time. So there's that one. There's that one. And of course you want to put them in a container so you don't lose them. So do the same to the other 6, 3 on that side, 3 on that side, and the 13 mils in the middle. So once you've taken all the bolts off, all you have to do is pull it back towards you, and the under tray will fall to the ground. As you can see, the under tray is on the ground there, and you can now see the underneath of the engine bay. And once you do that, the good thing to do is look for leaks. There's no leaks over here, so everything looks to be in tip-top shape. So I'm going to show you guys the drain plug and the fill plug. Quickest way to locate it is look at this little bracket, follow the line, and right here at the most bottom part of the transmission casing, you will see a huge plug right there. And it's the only one that is a 24. So that's the drain plug. And the fill plug is directly above it. You just go up and you will see the plug right there. easiest way to find this is locate this ground wire, and it's right there. Keep in mind these are the only really big bolts that have those big washers underneath. As you can see, that is the fill plug. So you want to place your drain pan underneath the plug, and you want to crack open the top just so you can let some air kind of be able to push through and give this the gravitational advantage of pouring out pretty quick. So here we are about to take the plug out. You can see it's not that bad. And the last time I changed this was probably 4 years ago. And it's actually not it's not hitting that diffuser at all, so we got pretty lucky. So what I like to do is I save half a quart because the car only takes 2.5 quarts, and so you have half a quart left over from your previous change. Really quick, this is how you use the transfer pump. You put this end of the pump into your bottle. Some of them you can cap them on, but for this one it doesn't cap on to these sort of bottles. So basically while it's in there, you just pump this and you can see new fluid going through, and then basically you fill it up. But what I like to do is I use some of the transmission fluid from before on inside the transmission, just to be able to kind of clean it out, clean more of the old transmission fluid out. So that's a good idea for practice. So I used about that full half a quart of old new transmission fluid just to clean it up, and I pulled out a lot more of that black stuff, and the fluid coming out is now clear, so it's pretty clean to begin with. So once that stops draining, go ahead and put your drain plug back on and tighten it to 29 foot-pounds of torque. So once you've torqued the drain plug to 29 pounds, there's one more thing you should do. So grab your torque wrench again and use an extension with a 15mm socket, and there will be a bolt, your tie rod end bolt. You want to tighten that, or make sure that it's tight, to about 45 foot-pounds. It used to be, I think, 50 Newton meters, but Lotus changed it to 60 Newton meters simply because there have been a lot of failures, and if one of those breaks, you will lose control of your car. You'll lose total control of your car. You can't steer. You'll just, probably just spin out. And there's been a massive amount of crashes simply for these toe links not being tight or failing. So you have one on this side and one on the other side. Right there, not sure if you can see it. So just make sure that those are at least tight to 50 or to 60 Newton meters or 45 foot-pounds for torque. So just make sure those are tight, and it's better to be safe than sorry, and it only takes about 15-20 seconds each one, so make sure you do that. So now we're ready to put some transmission fluid inside the transmission. So what you want to do is insert the other end of the tube inside the transmission fill hole, and basically you pump this, and you can see the transmission fluid going inside. So it will take about 2.5 quarts, and you will know it's finished when it barely starts to overflow over here. As soon as it starts overflowing, give it one quick pump and tighten it as fast as you can, and that would be how much that you should have in there. So just wait for it to start to overfill out. As soon as it starts to overfill out, just tighten the plug and then torque it back to 29 foot-pounds as well. So once you've torqued the fill plug to 29 foot-pounds, now you can clean up any drips and mess that you've made, as well as put on the under tray. Don't forget to check the torques on both of your toe links, and once you've done that, you can close the cap on your gear oil and you can label it with the date and mileage if you'd like. That way you can keep track of it for next time. Thank you guys for watching. I hope it helped you out. Another good practice is once you've done changing either the oil of your engine or transmission fluid, it's always a good idea to wipe down your under tray, both sides. Make sure it's really clean, and the reason for that is if there are any leaks in the future, they'll be easier to spot since it's clean, and you'll be able to know approximately when it started. So all of that will help a lot in the future. So I recommend cleaning your under tray prior to putting it back on. So once you have everything cleaned up, install your under tray and safely lower the vehicle and check your fluid levels, especially for your engine, and take it around the block and come back and recheck your fluid levels, and you should be good to go. So I hope this video helps you guys, and have a wonderful day. Thank you. Okay, so you can kind of see the residue left, or the transmission fluid after it's been drained. I'm not sure if the extra black is from transmission fluid from the previous owner, because this was my first transmission fluid change since I had the car. I actually changed the transmission fluid on February 17, 2012. Today is July 14th, 2017. So about 5 years. So the transmission fluid, oh, and I've probably driven I want to say close to 15,000 miles, 10 to 15,000 miles since the last transmission fluid change. So you can see it's more greenish. I see a little green. Of course my finger being dirty doesn't help, but you can kind of see the outer portion is fairly clean. The inner portion is where all the gunk is built up. Again, that could be just parts of the transmission being used and stuff like that. So I'll see during my next transmission fluid change whether or not it's more dirty because of the previous transmission fluid that was still in there when I changed it, or just because that's how it worn out. So here's a quick comparison of how the oil aged. I actually changed the transmission fluid on February 17th, 2012. Today is July 14th, 2017. So you can see that's the very last part of the transmission fluid where it's all gunky and stuff. But if you look at the outside edges, it's not too bad. It's not like horrible for that long with a lot of spirited driving and such. So if you drive your car pretty hard, it's a good idea to change it more frequently. And what I like to do actually is I like to save, because you'll use 2.5 quarts, so you'll have about half a quart left of transmission fluid. So what you want to do, or what I do, is I use a little bit of this, half of this or whatever, to I pump some into the fill plug to kind of wash out more of the old transmission fluid. But that's just because I'm a perfectionist and OCD about that. So here's actually pour a little bit here so you can see it's really clear and red, whereas that one is not. Again, it's kind of draining, so I can't really show you that well. So I'm just going to take a sample of this with the semi-clean finger. So this is basically how much it ages in about 5 years. And again, this is some of the new fluid. So obviously a huge difference with any oil, but it's not horrible. So I'm gonna flush some of this new stuff in to get more of the old stuff out, and we'll see what happens. Oh, I want to also mention that it could also be a little darker, because darker than usual, because when that was my first transmission fluid change 5 years ago. So I don't know what fluid that the previous owners used, but that would be the old fluid, so it could be partially mixed with some of the old fluid, so it's not as clean. But next transmission fluid swap or transmission fluid change, I'll be able to tell if it's truly going black or it's just it was just mixed from the previous owner's transmission fluid.